So that brings us to part 3 of this, which is like talking about the filming aspect of this. And to have this conversation, we've got to pull Ali in. Ali Pierre Etienne is somebody who is critical in the filming. So let me see if she can jump on. Hang on a second. Hey,
Hey
Ali.
guys.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
good. How are you?
Hey, Ollie.
Good. What's
So,
up?
what's up? We are on part 3 of 4. We just, Kyle and I just talked a little bit about, you know, a bit of an overview of what the project was, what problem we set out to solve. We talked about pre-production and concept creation. So to set the stage for you, we basically just talked about, uh, this Friday, this specific Friday in like January or February, I forget where it was, where we went through
Mm,
concepts with Kathy, and then it was time to film. So we've arrived at our concept, and we're now ready to talk about filming. Do you want to talk about some of the unique things that we were thinking about and doing when we were filming this?
uh,
In your role too.
Yeah, your role. Tell the
sure.
audience
Oh, right. I should
what you do.
probably introduce myself. My name is Alexandria Pierre Etienne, also known as Ali, and I'm a filmer, editor, photographer. Specifically, my role in this project was mostly directing and just being on site with Matt and Kyle and kind of just like helping choreograph some of the scenes and getting the frontline workers in frame.
I think, Allie, I think you were on maybe a separate project that conflicted when we were conceptualizing all this stuff too,
Yeah,
everything that Matt and I were talking about. Normally we pull you into the process sooner, but you were you were on another project, I think, that Friday.
that's true. Yeah, and that tends to happen. Sometimes we kind of shift things around, and we could all be on a project from the get-go all together, or sometimes some of us jump in later on. And I think with this project, yeah, I kind of joined in the middle when we were starting to film on site, um, and that's
When
when
we
I
needed extra hands.
yeah. Plus, it was like, from what I remember, it was in many different locations too. There's a lot of like just logistical challenges of getting from one side of the city to the other. So a lot of those areas was construction sites and one of the residential buildings. I would say a lot of that, just thinking back on the memories, it was really fun. Um, and not as like stressful. It was more of just like we're loosely creating on the spot.
Mm.
And our focus was on these video portraits. Instead of just a traditional sit down interview, we really wanted to just engage more with setting the subject in frame and kind of get a close intimacy with their environment and their personality. And I think we pulled that off really well. And just to go into like details of, um, I guess, the format of how we approached it, it was very flexible in terms of like gear wise. Like Kyle was just handheld with the camera, and I had an iPad to just to monitor what Kyle is seeing. That way, we were able to easily move around in the space and kind of direct where we want people to go and um, what we wanted to get out of them.
Do you want to talk about this little like expectation trick that we pulled? This
Oh yeah,
little thing to try and get the kind of the lack of preparation that we were looking for.
yeah, and I think I don't know if you started this, Matt, or maybe it was an expectation from Kathy, um, of like people tend to think they're getting their photos taken. Like as soon as you see a camera, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be a picture, and you kind of just stand there and prepare to get a photo taken. And Matt, I think you kind of went further along with that idea of like, well, that might help to ease people in front of the camera if we just say like, this is going to be, we're coming to take your portrait. And that way, it kind of reminds me of like, as a musician, when we're recording other musicians in studio, the trick is you don't let them know they're being recorded. It sounds weird, but as they're warming up and they're kind of practicing their riffs, it's like, okay, I'm ready to start. And it's like, oh, we've been recording this whole time and we've got some good stuff out of you. So this approach that Matt proposed was like, we're going to bring in the camera, you know, this would be a portrait or a photo of you. And, you know, they're like, okay, getting ready. And, you know, they're already in their element, instead of saying like, all right, here we go. And,
Yeah,
you know,
well, we
it
left
definitely
it
brings something
vague.
different.
Like we said we were coming to
Yeah.
capture portraits, but everybody assumed that though that meant still photographs. There's something that happens when you tell people that you're going to come film. They think there's this expectation that they have to like perform, and
Yeah,
there's this
totally.
like you don't get the like the true person there when that performance is taking place, whatever that might be. So, yeah, it felt like we used the stuff that ended up in the video seemed like it was like the few seconds or the fraction of the second before the pose, or like the few seconds or fraction of the second after the pose. Those seem to be the most memorable. And then
It's
Yeah.
true.
you had a really cool shot. Like you want to talk about, or Kyle or Allie, do you want to talk about like some of the more memorable shots? There's one that we talked about that we liked.
I had, just before we move off the topic of the portraits, I think also that goes back to just like a logistic reason of why we were doing it. We had so many properties to visit. I think we had maybe 10 or 12 on our list.
So many.
And I was before the day we were shooting, I spent probably a good day just communicating with all the site supervisors and or building managers on site, the people that we were meeting with, in order to set their expectations that of when we were going to show up, what we were going to do, what we needed from them, how long it would take, and where this thing would live. And the notion of saying we're going to take your picture makes it sound casual, makes it sound quick. And it also pairs with the camera style that we're using, which is handheld, something we don't always do. We do it. It's a very conscious decision to go handheld, because it offers a certain style of like a certain look, often like mimicking like a first person viewpoint. It's a lot looser. It's a little shakier. Yeah.
It's a little shakier, but you intentionally slow down the footage just to really like bring people in the moment, and I think that has a huge effect. So it was really cool that, you know, we approached it that way just to get more candid shots.
And there was one other unusual thing about the filming of this project, and that is that we asked our client Kathy to film some of this stuff. Does somebody want to talk about that? We don't usually do that either, but there were reasons why we did.
Well, it's kind of building off of what I was just saying too, with the volume of locations and faces that we had to capture. We needed a little bit of help. So we created a document for Kathy with directions on how to actually get a video, which she knows how to do, but we just wanted to make sure that her phone was on the right settings and had the right frame rate,
orientation,
and picture profile that would match our other camera, orientation, vertical versus horizontal. Just little notes for her to keep in mind while she was filming. And she actually got a couple other locations as well. And the moments she got were sometimes different than what we got.
In a good way,
Allie,
right?
Yeah.
I would
Allie,
say,
do you want to talk about that?
Totally. I think, you know, it makes a difference too when you have people that already know each other and have worked with each other before. They have already had that established relationship. It makes it easier to just get a little bit more out of them. We're good at doing that in our own way as well, but sometimes, you know, there might have been some things that Kathy was able to pull out from these people that, you know, like just joking around, or I think there was one where the lady was like twirling around and smiling and kind of joking, and just shows more personality. So the other thing was, I think intentionally just having cell phone shots really just, it's relatable to, you know, how we use our technology day to day with having cell phones and social media. So I think it was very appropriate to have cell phone shots in this. And, kind of get a viewpoint of like how people were experiencing communication throughout 2020 during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was authentic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a good mix.
And also some good direction. Allie, I liked your, you gave good direction for a bunch of these shots. The construction worker in the south end putting on the helmet, the hard hat helmet, was like a super effective shot for that like get to work sense of this, or like showing up to do a job kind of thing. It was like he was putting the helmet on and
The
getting to
hero
it.
shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Allie almost like choreographed a lot of the shots. She brought a lot of energy to the shots, and she was on a monitor that was connected to my camera. She had an iPad in her hand that was connected to my camera. So I was solving all the photographic issues with being behind the camera. And Allie was really focused on the subject and what they had to offer for the frame. And she was bringing the energy or the emotion into each shot, which it helps to kind of split those roles on site. Between two people with what we're getting.
It was pretty deliberate to say, okay, let's script this, let's have it narrated professionally, let's have a voice that represents the company. But a project feels so different if you're going to use a narration compared with if you're going to film interviews and then cut that together. And the way I think about it is, if you're doing interviews, you're casting this extraordinarily wide net. And if you use like single digit percentage of what you actually film versus writing a script and knowing that it's going to be professionally narrated, you get so much more like direction and precision of what you actually have to film. Any comments on that? Like, I feel like that allowed us to go pretty fast in this project.